Immediately after the splash screen, we will present the player with a short sequence of text introducing the game. In this video, we will create the scene that will receive this text, exploring one of TilBuci's narrative features, the dialogue creator. Let's start by opening the intro scene we just created and adding a background to it. To do this, we'll use a short looping video. Open the Media menu and click on Video to open the manager. TilBuci's Media Manager supports the use of folders to improve file organization. Let's create a Backgrounds folder and go into it. Let's upload the file, intro_background, MP4, and add it to our stage. Note that manipulating a video instance is the same as manipulating images or text. So, let's make our video cover the entire screen. To make it easier to manipulate videos on the editor, we can play and pause them at any frame. To do this, open the Current Instance tab and click Play, pausing whenever you want. While you're in this tab, adjust the instance name and also the name of the new media collection that was created. If you test the scene, you'll see that the video plays continuously in a loop. This is the default behavior for videos included in scenes. If you want to change this behavior, select the instance and click Edit Asset in the Current Instance tab. In the Asset Properties window, you can change this behavior if you want, which we won't do in our case. We will use this introductory scene to display a short sequence of text that we included in the JSON file loaded in the previous scene. To do this, we will use a feature called dialog creation, which is one of the narrative tools included in TilBuci. Although it is most commonly used for dialogues between characters, it works well for any sequence of text that is advanced by user interaction. The dialog tool works by connecting to instances in the scene and altering their content and visibility accordingly. In our case, we'll set a text instance to receive the content and two image instances that will serve as buttons to advance and go back. Let's prepare these instances and add them to the scene. Now, access the Narrative menu and click on Dialogues. Dialogue contents are arranged into groups. Since narrative games can contain a large number of them, this grouping facilitates not only organization but also allows dialogues to be loaded on demand, just like text files. Let's create the Intro group. Within the Intro group, we will create the Presentation dialog. Note that when you select the dialog, several settings appear in the right column of the window. The first ones we see are the names of the instances to be manipulated by this dialog. In our case, we will only change the text of the intro text instance and use the next and previous instances for navigation. The next adjustment involves the dialog text lines. Here, you can either type the text directly or, as we will do, specify the names of the string variables that contain each line. Do you remember the content of the JSON files we loaded in the first scene? Notice that variables called intro01, intro02, and similar ones were created. Whenever you want to use the contents of a string variable in TilBuci, indicate its name starting with the dollar symbol. The same procedure applies to the use of numeric variables, starting with hashtag, or Boolean variables, starting with interrogation. Let's add the first line of text as $intro01. The next two settings for each line of text refer to displaying the speech character, but since we're not using that at the moment, we'll just leave it as none. The final touch for each line is an optional audio track that can be played automatically when the text line is displayed. To use this feature, we'll upload some audio files. This time, we'll upload a compressed zip file containing our MP3 files organized into folders. Notice that after uploading, we have two folders, one called Langen and the other called Lanked. each containing an intro folder with MP3 files. We'll select File 01 from the Langen folder for the first line of text and click Add a line to register it. Now, let's do the same for the remaining lines of text up to $intro 06. With our 6 lines of text recorded, let's click on Save Dialog Updates to register them and, finally, on Save Current Dialog Settings. Remember to save, publish, your scene regularly. As we said before, dialogues are loaded dynamically, just like text files. Therefore, in our production, the best time to load this introductory text sequence is in the previous scene, right after the translated texts. This way, when we enter the scene, we'll already have all the content ready. Let's open a new workspace and load this splash scene. Let's edit the actions of the English button. In the On Success section of the second block, remove the Load a Scene action. Let's add a new block from the narrative group with a Load Dialog group action. This action requires a parameter, the name of the dialog group, which we will specify as intro, the name we gave it earlier. When this action is executed, all the dialogues in the group are loaded together. Expand the newly created block and you'll see that it also has its own On Success and On Error events. Action blocks in TilBuci can be nested according to your needs. Here, we can follow the same principle as loading the text, simply indicating an error in the browser console if the dialog doesn't load, for example, when the indicated name is incorrect, and opening the intro scene if everything goes as expected. With this nesting, TilBuci will first load the JSON text file, then the dialog information, and if everything is correct, open the scene. Remember to do the same for the Portuguese button. Now we know that when the intro scene is displayed, the text and dialogue are loaded correctly. The next step is, as soon as the scene is displayed, to start the display with the first line of text. To do this, go back to editing the scene and in the Scene menu, click on Properties and go to the Start Actions tab. Here we can define actions to be executed as soon as the scene is shown. Look in the narrative group for the action, start a dialog display, and specify the name, presentation that we used in the dialog configuration as the parameter. Save the scene, and let's go back to editing Splash. Let's test our scene twice, first by clicking the English button and then the Portuguese button. Notice that in both cases the displayed text is correct according to the language, but the audio remains in English in both cases.
In the year 20XX, a great discovery shook the world. In the year 20XX, a great discovery shook the world.
Even if we have loaded the correct text file for each language, the audio media played always comes from the Langen folder, as we configured in the dialog settings. To solve this, TilBuci has an action that swaps parts of the media file loading path, allowing the audio from linked/intro/01 MP3 to be used instead of Langen/intro/01 MP3. Open the actions of the Portuguese button and, within On Success, look in the Replace Data Actions and Conditions group for the action. Set a replacement for file name/path. Specify Langen and length as parameters, in that order. If you want to access the media from their original folders again, in the English button actions we will add the action, remove all file name/path replacements. Remember to save your scene, and let's test again.
In the year 20XX, a great discovery shook the world. You know what?
ano de 20XX, uma grande descoberta abalou o mundo.
Notice that when we test, the previous button doesn't appear, since we're on the first line of the sequence, but also notice that the next button doesn't move to the next line. Even if the dialog tool assumes the visibility of the buttons, we still have to specify their actions. Let's go back to editing the intro scene and, in the next button, indicate the action Show the next dialog text line from the narrative group. Let's do the same for the previous button, adding the action Show the previous dialog text line. Let's save the scene and go back to Splash for testing.
In the year 20XX, a great discovery shook the world. A vast, complex, and rich universe, hidden for ages, was discovered by accident. No matter as we know, light and color form everything that exists there, and yet countless resources and riches await discovery. A vast, complex, and rich universe, hidden for ages, no matter as we know, and there is something even more curious. No life was found there. Even what could have happened? What is this place? This is the beginning of the story of this enigmatic place known only as rgbU.
In this video, we discover the dialog creation tool, a powerful TilBuci feature that simplifies the creation of narrative games. We also saw some new techniques for using translated media files. Next, we'll check out the title screen of our prototype and learn a bit about instance animation.